last time we met HTK, I thought we would just 3-0 them, but then they came back so strong.
H2K are the number 3 team in Europe.
They just stumped us.
There was a good team before.
SK Gaming, the best team in Europe, stays undefeated.
I think they could be a good team again. Everything can happen.
So even if we're playing Elements and I've been in that team before, it just feels like another game to play, another game to take.
And it's Reckless that gets a double kill. Fnatic with a 3-0.
Fnatic is somewhat of a super team right now. They're definitely the opponent to beat if you're looking to become a contender.
Definitely expected Origin to come into the LCS good.
Origin have rolled over them, just like everybody else so far.
They're a really good team because they're hard to predict.
That is something a little bit different. I guess that's top lane Nocturne.
Yeah, we can surprise everyone.
Unicorns of love, unicorns of life. They breed themselves back from the brink.
Is heating up here in our studio in Berlin, Germany, as we are wrapping up for Game 3 of the European LCS. There's some fans outside getting their tan on before they go in the studio and watch the games. There's the Unicorns of Love talking some last-minute strats before they go into the game. Their first game of the day, and it is versus Origin. Origin still undefeated, looking to keep that clean record here in the European LCS. I'm Evie Shogzaporter here to take a look at the week that lies ahead with the European Challenger Series. James Stress O'Leary and our very own Mitch Kreppel Voorspools and Trevor Quickshot Henry as well. Getting ready for week 3. Looking dapper, gentlemen, we all are, and we're ready to go. And after 20 games over the last 2 weeks, some clear divisions are beginning to show themselves in the standings. If we bring those up, of course, still undefeated. You're either undefeated, like Fnatic or Origin, at the top of the table, or you're 3-1. This means that you're beating most of the teams, but you're losing to the top teams. You're 1-3, losing to the top teams, beating the bottom, or you're SK Gaming or Gambit, and then it's just you against the world, Trevor.
Yeah, it's such a difficult situation for these teams at the moment. Last week, we had a very weird instance where 5 teams went 2-0, 5 teams went 0-2, but there's very clear divisions being drawn. And the interesting thing to me is just the expectation that these teams had coming into the summer splits. A lot of people expected Fnatic and Origin to be doing well. A lot of people expected Elements, Roccat, and even Gambit to be performing better than they currently are. So we're 3 weeks in, we need to see whether or not these teams are starting to shake off the rust, and if they can get to the levels of performance that people were expecting as the split started.
Yeah, indeed. Things are heating up with each game. We are a step closer to the summer playoffs, and we also announced the tickets for the European Summer Split Finals, which will be held in the Hovet Arena in Stockholm. Those tickets will go on sale this coming Monday, that is the 15th, and all the information to join the show and see it in person is over on lolesports.com, of course. And now today also marks 2 weeks since Echo's release, which means that the boy who shattered time, he's ready for the LCS stage. So the big question is, will we see him or not?
Well, I've already got an answer for you on that one, Shocks. We've already seen him in competitive play in one game in the Challenger Series. We saw Team Dignitas pulling that out with their mid laner Senkux, and he went 11-2-6 against Maus in their qualifiers to get themselves back into the summer split of Challenger. And you know, it was interesting to see a player with the mechanical prowess of Senkux picking up the champion, but couldn't always get himself into the team fights.
No, he really couldn't. And despite the highlight clips you can see here and the damage, watch as he blows up Cedrian's Ashe. The thing that stamps into my mind when watching Senkux play is just how difficult it was for him to get Echo into those advantageous positions. And it was very difficult to set up because you've got 3 seconds on your W, 4 seconds on your R. You know, it's a very complex champion, and it showed that they weren't necessarily versed in the finer details of playing Echo.
Now, week 1, we saw the rise of Ashe. Week 2, we saw Rise put everybody in ashes. So only time will tell if week 3 Echo will have that mark. But if you don't know much about Echo, I'm just going to walk you through his abilities right now. First of all, starting with the passive, Z-Drive Resonance, or for our Europeans, Z-Drive Resonance. After 3 procs, you slow your enemy, deal a bit of damage, and if you're hitting champions, then Echo also speeds up. That's basically his bread and butter, mobility in fights. Echo is a high mobile mage assassin type of deal that wants to go in and out of fights, and he uses his Q to his advantage. Time Winder, he throws out a bit of a boomerang once it hits a champion, or it hits his maximum range, it expands and comes back slower. So 2 damage procs, which can in then turn proc your passive twice, so you only need one more hit to get that passive proc. But then what I really like is parallel convergence, and this puts it a slowing field far away from Echo. Takes a while to cast, field slows enemies if you're in there, but if Echo walks into that ability, then he stuns everybody around him, and that works so well with multiple of his abilities, like for example phase dive. It's a double gap close component, first a dash and then an auto attack modifier that allows you to dash one more time and then spread some more damage, immediately do some damage on your opponents as well. You can combine these spells, but his bread and butter, the reason why Echo is such a versatile champion is Chrono Break, his ultimate. The second you skill that ultimate, you have a 4-second window where constantly a ghost is chasing you. 4 seconds back in time, and if you pop it, then you deal AoE damage, apply another passive mark, and you can already see the combos you can do. Parallel convergence, go back in with Chrono Break, or run away from a fight, go back in, or engage way too deep to pick one guy out and jump back out. So many possibilities. I think week 3 it's a little early for people to have mastered Echo, but week 4 and 5, everybody's going to be spending time focusing on Echo, and then of course, Bard will come back too.
I share the sentiment. I think it's very difficult to set it up, but I'm hoping we can see him paired with a Callista, maybe a Bard as well, and you can get all of that unique awesomeness between the champion interactions. One can hope.
Yeah, we will see. We can hope. We have 5 games where it could come out today, so let's take a look at the schedule. As said, we're going to start off the day with the undefeated Origin up against Unicorns of Love. Also, Fnatic versus Elements in there as our fourth game of the day. A tall order for Elements, and, well, a lot of interesting matchups to keep our eye on.
Yeah, really are. Now, I'm looking at the bottom of the table teams. I want to see how Rocket, 2, Copenhagen Wolves, and Gambit in their respective matchups, because they do need to start stepping up. 0 and 4, 1 and 3 in some of those scenarios, and it's a difficult situation to be in when there's only 18 games in the split.
Yeah, those are the bottom of the table, but for our third place, we have a very important match tomorrow. That is also our match of the week. H2K will go up against the Unicorns of Love, I said, battling it out for third place in our European League here. Now, before we take a look at today's very first game, we want to get your input. Hop on Twitter and tell us which team do you think will turn around their split to contest the top of the table, and how will they do it? Send those in, you know, the drill. Tweet your answers at LOL Esports, and we'll talk over your answers right here on the desk later today. All right, that was a lot, but now it's time to dive into today's game, starting with Origin versus the Unicorns of Love. We're going to start over on the blue side for Origin, who are still undefeated right here in the league with Soaz, Amazing, Expeke, Niels, Mithy, and their coach, Leduc. And then on the other side, the Crazy Ponies looking to hand them their very first loss of the season. The Unicorns of Love, Vizichachi, Kikis, Power of Evil, Vardags, Hillesang, and Sheepy. Well, I'm personally very excited for this matchup. I hope it becomes a little crazy. But for a look into the strategy, or the mentality rather, of Origin side, we're going to pull up a tweet from Amazing, their jungler, which he tweeted during week 2 of the North American LCS, and said, "I feel like NA is playing too macro-focused for my taste. There seems to be no risks being taken, even if the potential gain is a win." And he continues, "It feels a lot like the Season 4 European meta. It lacks individuality to a certain extent, and playmakers are so rare." And, well, that fits in perfectly with the way that Origin does like to play. They go all in, definitely in the early game, individual people stepping up, and sometimes getting out by the skin of their teeth to build their advantage.
Yeah, definitely the case. And for Origin, it's not only amazing. He's got, you know, some very opinionated things to say, but he's backing it up. His Gragas play last week was absolutely fantastic. You can see some clips on your screen. Niels and Mithy getting themselves out alive with just exquisite individual and team play, which I know Crepo was a big fan of when it happened live. And every single member of the team is stepped up on stage and is performing to a phenomenal level. Unicorns, on the other hand, they've been slowing down. They've been playing this poke-heavy style. So that tweet that Amazing had could correlate to UOL's playstyle. And if Origin continue the same level, I think they're setting up for a pretty strong victory today.
Indeed, and I said individual performances at the center of that, and someone that a lot of us had to get our eye on was Soaz, coming back into the professional, or the highest level of the professional scene, and he's been doing really well so far.
He's been really impressive, but even pulling out a couple of champions that we've never really seen him play the style of before either. Last week, picked up the Hecarim, did very well on that, and the Rumble has been a good pick for them as well. Soaz is really starting to make a name for himself once again as being one of those top-tier European top laners.
I just really like Soaz's propensity towards negative situations turning positive. So when he gets ganked, yes, he can ulti out to run away, but as you saw in the clip, he can simply just turn around, pop his Ignite, and kill those unsuspecting poor people that are ganking him, you know, like the jungler or the support later in that game as well. And he's just shown a lot of versatility, and that was the Soaz we were looking for, you know, the unpredictable Soaz in the top lane. What is he going to do? Totally question mark, and it's working so far for Origin.
Definitely isn't. As you said, a lot in that early game, taking risks, and we do have our eye on that early game. A lot is going to stem for that between Origin and Unicorns of Love. If we take a look at Origin, they are so efficient when it comes to the early game. They actually have the highest amount of kills and the lowest amounts of deaths before 15 minutes. And as said, sometimes they get out by the skin of their teeth, but it has been working out for them. And on the other side, Unicorns of Love, historically, with one split in mind, saying they have been more chaotic. And in week 2, we've seen that, but less efficient. 10 kills, but 12 deaths before the 15-minute mark, and I feel like this is something where it could come and bite them in the butt.
At the same time, though, what speaks in favor of the Unicorns is that, yes, at one point they've had that chaotic early type of play that can have them, that gives them experience against Origin. If Origin's going for the early bloodbath, yes, Unicorns, we've done that before, but if Unicorns want to play back and play their poke-heavy style mid laner, then Expeke has shown that he's not the most aggressive mid laner right now. He's leaning back a bit. Perhaps he can play aggressive, but he can give Power of Evil enough time to ramp up that Kog'Maw, ramp up that Varus, and start poking down Origin. However, I think Origin just plays too good of a macro game to let that happen.
Yeah, and something that we've also seen in the trains, UOL has only lost to Fnatic, the only team that's been able to punish that sort of play backward passive style. Origin has a similar aggressive level from other lanes, and we'll need to see whether or not Amazing jumps into that mid lane to maybe punish a passive Power of Evil and help out Peke. He's not done it yet because he hasn't needed to. He's put a lot of attention on Niels and Soaz, so I want to see which lane he focuses today.
Yeah, and that's also at the core of this matchup, of course. Amazing, you mentioned, versus Kikis, who has been known to pull out some crazy stuff, but not as of late.
Not as of late, but still Kikis is very much so unpredictable. Amazing has had a lot of impact in the early game. You can see both junglers having a lot of impact overall. Kikis a little bit more when it comes to getting involved with his team's kills, but certainly I feel like Amazing's early game strength may be upset a touch by Kikis being that more unpredictable from the jungle role.
I'm just waiting for the Shaco coming out of Kikis, and I just pray it's not a Volibear.
Pray it's not a volleyball. It's gonna work one time. I mean, it can't.
Has to almost at this point.
We will see. Now, for a behind-the-scenes look into Origin, Pulse is standing by with their coach.
Thank you very much, Shucks. I'm Richard Polskamp, and I am joined here by the coach of Origin. It is Leduc. Now, I kind of want to ask you about, you've been in previous organizations, Rocket, Copenhagen Wolves. Now that you've moved to this organization, it's definitely a little different. Has your role as coach changed at all?
I would say it definitely changed. I think in Origin, I've taken a little backtrack on the gameplay, and I have a larger coaching staff to coordinate. Like, we have a very strong analyst, we have an IT consultant. Both of them have been doing amazing work. And in Rocket, I've been mainly being alone, and I think also that my coaching style is a lot more supportive for the players. So I think I fit into Origin much more, and my style is much more effective with this team.
Oh, fantastic. It sounds like you guys are very prepared on that front. I do want to get your perspective on how it's been like working with these guys, because Origin is a completely different team from Rocket.
Well, so far working with them has been a blast, I have to admit. When I went into Origin, I had very different expectations. I thought the team might be much more difficult to handle, but they have so many experienced players. They really know their stuff, and I think they really know, we work really well as a team. I think if you take the main differences between Rocket and Origin, I think Origin really knows how to work, how to also bond as a team. We're constantly doing team activities. We eat together, we drink together, and I don't know. It's just I'm having a really fun time, and I have to admit I wouldn't want to trade.
Well, it's awesome you've been integrating with the team. Now, I do want to shift gears just a little. You guys are now playing the Unicorns of Love. They're extremely unpredictable. It's now 5-10. Echo is now available. How's your preparation been going into a game up against the Unicorns?
I have to admit, against Unicorns so far, we've spent the most preparation. They are an extremely annoying team to prepare against. Lots of picks you have to consider. I think we have a very strong plan into Champion Select. It might be a little bit risky, we'll have to see. But I feel confident we can win, but it's not a guarantee. We're not going into this game saying, this is a 100% win. Unicorns, in a way, might be the second strongest opponent after Fnatic, so we're not taking this game lightly.
Oh, great stuff. Go ahead and join your teams for picks and bans. Thank you for joining me and taking the time here. Now, before we head up to the caster desk, we're going to see how Chachi knew that Origin were a threat before even heading to the big leagues.
I definitely expected Origin to come into the LCS good, and I based that judgment on our scrims, because we scrimmed them a lot, even when they were a challenger team. They definitely seemed strong back then already, and having a lot of former LCS players that were really good in their teams, I expected them to be one of the best teams in Europe.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Stress and I have TP'd over to the caster desk as Origin and the Unicorns of Love will be heading into picks and bans in just a moment. We know Echo's available. We know it's 5.10. Echo, Rise. There's a lot of things to think about going into this game.
So many picks to think about, especially against the Unicorns. You're basically never going to win a game in picks and bans against the Unicorns of Love unless they make a mistake. So this is certainly a test now for the coaching staff of Origin to have things in the right place.
Yeah, and you heard LeDuc talking about it. He said Unicorns of Love are an extremely annoying team to prepare against, and he heard that there was a potential risky pick. So the crowd is excited as the first ban out of the gates is the Cogmore. Power of Evil has played Cassiopeia at least once, but we'll see if he defaults back to it, if it even makes it through picks and bans.
It was one of the questions on my mind was, were Origin going to focus out the sieging style that Unicorns have been playing more recently? And it looks like they are with that Cogmore. I don't think they'll go for the Varus ban we've seen other teams do because it's not quite so consistent for the Unicorns as a whole. Interesting, though, to see an Urgot ban come out of the Unicorns. We've actually seen Urgot's priority a little bit lower in other regions. Now they're on 5.10 just for a number of different reasons. But the Unicorns of Love certainly don't want to deal with Niels on that Urgot.
They do not. Let's touch on what is still available. Cassio, Azir, Echo is banned out. Stress, as we did talk about him in the pregame in the top of the show. But as we said, Maokai's up, Rumble's up. Not all the junglers are available. It really feels like the priorities are just a little different here today for these guys.
It certainly does. And we were talking about the jungle matchup as being our match to watch, our featured matchup of the game. And as you said, both junglers in Gragas and Rek'Sai are available. Both players have been pretty much just focusing on the Gragas. You look at it, 2 games from Amazing, 3 games from Kikis on that Gragas. I wonder whether Origin will look to take that away because the only other champion that Kikis has played has been Nunu.
All right, we'll find out. Gragas has got that 100% pick and ban ratio, has featured in every single game of the European Summer Split with a 6 wins, 6 losses record.
Rise is available at this point. Rise was 100% pick banned in last week's LCS. Now, Vizicachi was one of the Rise players that we saw from week 2. I wonder whether, like Huni, he worked on something to go up against Rise here, but certainly have to feel if Origin give this away, you saw how much damage Vizicachi was doing in that Unicorns of Love game last week.
Well, we'll see what they decide. They do not opt for the Rise this time around, Stress. It is that Gragas that we've touched on. And as you highlighted as well, Huni ran the Cho'Gath into Rise. It wasn't necessarily a hard counter, but he sustained and stayed alive well enough in lane to become impactful in the mid to late game. Thresh has been locked in for Hylissang.
Yeah, Thresh has been locked in, and Thresh has just unanimously been banned against Hylissang in just about every other game that they have played. Only one it was available, and he actually opted for, I believe it was the Morgana at the same time. So this is 2 very comfortable picks and very strong picks for the Unicorns, but I have a feeling this is looking to be that top lane fizz that we've seen in the LPL. We've seen it over in LCK as well, where you go Cinderhulk with Smite from that top lane as fizz. You have a lot of damage and you have a lot of tankiness. Your ability to get into the backline is almost unparalleled.
Well, we'll find out if Soaz runs it and also how he's going to perform on that champion. Soaz always performed better in my mind on the damage dealing top laners. And we will be seeing another flavor of team composition from Origin. This is another time they're pulling out a pick that you may not necessarily associate with the team, and we'll see how well they can perform with that. A lot of junglers still up for Kikis. As we've highlighted, he's run Nunu as his only other choice when Gragas wasn't available, and of course for Vardags, maybe thinking towards a Kalista.
I expect Origin to go even more mobility when we come to their last picks, and because we haven't seen Niels running Sivir yet. Kalista is what he's favored, and they've gone instead to let the Unicorns have the Kalista alongside the Rek'Sai, 2 very strong champions when it comes to the current meta. Rek'Sai has been picked and banned almost as much as Gragas, but Origin, they're going to fire back with less mobility, but a whole lot more catch and crowd control. Nautilus from that bottom lane can go for the Righteous Glory, and now Orianna Shockwave on top of that is going to be very disruptive to the Unicorns.
We'll see whether or not Unicorns can deal with the late game of Fizz and Orianna. I feel like that top and mid lane is going to be a little bit slow out of the gates. However, we will see that Cassiopeia. So Power of Evil has stuck to his tried and true. When Cogmore was not available, He's played Cassio. When he played Cassio last time, it was a strong victory. But Origin knew full well what they were doing. They opted into Gragas' first pick and gave away that Rise.
Origin right now are looking to just completely disrupt Unicorns into skirmishes with this kind of setup. You look for somebody out on their own, you catch them using the Sivir ultimate, the Nautilus hook, and if Fizz can get into the backline, he will absolutely wreak havoc. Over on the other side of the Unicorns, a very late game focused solo lane setup here with Rise, with Cassiopeia, who are going to scale and actually fulfill basically the same role in team fights here. There is a lot on Vardags in the mid game to get them through this game and give them the better late game.
Something that we do not see from UOL is that tank. Rise at the moment is building AP, is building very much burst. As you actually mentioned in that last week Telestrator segment, Stress, the Rise and Cassio fulfill similar roles. I want to see how Vardags handles his positioning, because I do feel there's not a lot of peel for him necessarily. Rise wants to run in, Cassio wants to run in, so hopefully they can wave dangerous flags scarily enough to keep the rest of Origin off of Vardags.
Very much so. And, you know, honestly, the Unicorns love to be dragged into skirmishes, so Origin are kind of giving Unicorns maybe a good opportunity to do that against them.
Well, there's the two team comps once again, ladies and gentlemen. Day one, game one, Echo has been banned. Jump onto Twitter, let us know. Will the Unicorns of Love hand Origin their first loss of the summer split? Or will the young upstarts, full of old dogs, go 5-0? That's what we're going to find out.
Well, Unicorns, every time that question is asked of them, of can they do this, can they do that, they always say yes. Yes, we can. We can get ourselves into the positions to take second place in the spring split. They've always felt comfortable with that.
Well, we'll see if they can do it this time around. It does look like we have standard lane setups, at least in the first minute. No deep warding from either team. And we do see everybody covering off the respective entrances. Niels by the red buff. We see Mithy hanging out by the tri-bush, and the rest of UOL almost mirroring.
And speaking of Mithy, this is the first time we've seen him on this Nautilus, but it goes very well with the style of champions he's played. He's played the Alistar, he's played the Thresh, and as a result, these very active champions in teamfights have granted Mithy the highest amount of assists for a support. He's currently sat on 68 assists. Now, to put that in perspective, that is higher than the entire assist pool of Gambit as a team. So I expect a lot out of Mithy from this game.
I heard a few stunned faces in the audience, and we need to see how Mithy handles himself. I really want to keep my eye on Peke as well. I feel as this game goes later, if it goes later, there'll be a lot of pressure on Peke in these team fights to land a good shockwave. And we'll have to see how well he can handle this late game scaling. We do see Amazing in the jungle, playing Gragas, of course. It is the only champion that retains the 100% pick ban ratio. But look at those stats. There's 21 KDA. Not the greatest kill participation, but you know what? He doesn't need it because the team's 4-0.
The team are 4-0, and that makes this 100% win rate for Amazing fairly cut and dry on that one. So you can tell that Unicorns of Love, with that draft, allowing the Gragas through, they had to know what they were dealing with. It was going to be a very high priority pick for Origin. So Kikis, he's never one to shy away from a tough matchup, though.
Definitely not the case. And you know, it really is just a testament to the number of powerful champions that are available in the current patch. Cogboard not necessarily considered as strong as some of the others, but Azir went unpicked, unbanned, considering how high priority was, and Origin opted to ban the Cogmore over the likes of Cassio, over the likes of Rise, out of respect for Power of Evil.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that indeed plays out for Origin. But one thing I want to touch on, Origin look to have initiated this lane swap. And now, that's a little bit interesting when you take into account that one of the ways of dealing with Fizz as a solo laner, especially in the long lane, is to swap into him. And at this point, yes, they want to avoid the Kalista and the Thresh a little bit, but now they're putting a lot on Soaz's back because Fizz is not going to be able to farm very easily in this kind of setup.
Well, I did see Soaz play Hecarim last week and Rumble the week before. I think he's got a pretty big, strong back to work off. Definitely stepped up and surprised, but we do see a mirror 4v0 in the top half of the map in favor of Origin. It is almost mirrored by Unicorns of Love down bottom.
Yeah, Origin were faster to the punch on this one, though, so Unicorns clearly a little behind the curve on this kind of setup. Yes, they will be able to get damage done, but look, Origin are already already have that tower down beneath a quarter of its health here. Looks like they're peeling away just to try and slow down this push, though. They don't want to end up having the wave in a really awkward place when Niels is going to have to come forward for too much farm.
So we'll find out how well they can kill this wave off and whether or not it will bounce. It does look to be the case as minions are being killed away. And we did see not only did Origin start the swap and start the 4VO, I feel the Unicorns of Love mirrored it relatively well. They responded within a few seconds and do seem to be equalizing the trade of towers, keeping that global gold very even in a moment or two. Once Vardags, unable to kill the tower, but it should go down if he sticks around.
Sivir is coming across, and Nautilus coming through the jungle. So if Vardags goes for this, he puts himself in at least another tower shot. He has to back away and respect the fact that Origin beat them. And this is just purely down to the amount of time that Origin spent getting this set up for themselves. And Unicorns are being a little bit late. Vardags, that's a dangerous area to check into.
Why are you face checking? Vardags gets caught by the dredge line. He's trying to hop backwards, but that was changed recently. And Mithy decides not to flash forward. So, Vardags, unable to take the tower, means gold is not even, and he's going to back with Niels and Mithy shoving in that bottom lane.
Yeah, now you've got to try and counteract the Sivir pushing, and anytime you step forward in that lane, the Nautilus is going to be all over you. Take into account the look at where Hylissang has been at on the map. He's one of the more active supports when it comes to roaming. He was all the way mid and top, and I believe crossed a little bit of vision on the way up there. So Origin know that there's nobody down here, and they've basically done a very similar push here into this bottom lane at the same time. Now Kikis is waiting around in the mid lane as well. The problem is, Peke isn't the type of player that's going to step forward greedily here. He knows he's playing Orianna and just needs to get himself through this laning phase safely so the Power of Evil doesn't get ahead.
Well, Kikis says you will not get out of this safely. Does get a knock up, but Peke, Command Protect actually mitigates almost all of that damage. But I think we really have to go back to this mistake from Vardags, or mistiming might be a better word. Because with Vardags not taking that bottom tower and knowing how much wave clear Sivir and Nautilus have between them, it's going to be such a long time before that bottom tower falls, as long as Origin play the lane correctly.
Yeah, that's very much so the case is now. It was only a minor timing error out of the Unicorns of Love, and they will get that tower sometime down the line in the future, but certainly for now it's not kind of the gold generation tool that they were hoping to get from that. It's a lot to do with the fact that Origin were the ones initiating the 4v0, so that Unicorns ever so slightly didn't have the exact timings on it. So at this point, it's not too much of an issue for them, but certainly this rise in the top lane could become an issue for Origin.
Well, got that CS stacking already, a very small CS lead. Not that it really matters, because Soaz has got a very big minion wave to deal with. You see Power of Evil, small advantage in the middle lane, and Niels, as is traditional, he's built himself up some CS. So Soaz did throw down that challenging smite, but didn't have the support of Amazing. That means that gank was somewhat thwarted. Death Sentence onto the big diver, doesn't connect.
Not quite the right area, but not quite far enough from Hylissang. But that's one thing that he's... The reason that Thresh is banned away from him is Hylissang's skill shot supports tend to be very good at catching people out when they're not quite aware in lane. So I don't expect Mithy to get caught out that much. He has shown that in lane he's a fairly aggressive but also safe at the same time support. He knows when to trade very effectively, so I don't expect Hylissang to be catching him all that much.
Intelligently aggressive, if you will. As we're coming up to 7.5 minutes, the lanes have standardized. It's just that one tower down and the duo down bottom. Pops up top. And I also want to see how Peke decides to build this Orianna. Got himself a chalice, but we have actually seen Luden's Echo Oriannas coming out from the east. And we'll see whether or not Peke subscribes to the same methodology, considering, you know, the Fizz has come out. It's not exactly new at this day and this time. We've seen those top lane smites sort of fall out of favor, but obviously Soaz and Origin feel it could work against this rise.
We may see it another reason, because anytime you put Fizz into a team composition, or generally any melee champion, you always will kind of lack wave clear. So yes, you've got a Sivir, but if multiple lanes start getting pushed out, Orianna needs to be able to go ahead and clear another wave. So we'll look for that as we get later into this game.
I'm glad you bring that up though, because actually Unicorns of Love have got relatively low-range, risky wave clear as well. Unlike Sivir and Orianna, who can stay a little safer. Cassio, Ryze, Kalista, begin to get in need to get in range of a Gragas Barrel or a Fizz ulti if they want to clear wave safely on the towers.
I mean, as long as the Unicorns play it smartly, Cassiopeia is going to be able to clear the wave in front of them very comfortably. And then Vizicachi, the matchup against Soaz is dependent on the Playful Trickster, whether he can 1v1, but Ryze is very comfortable later on into the game to just sit there and say, well, you're never going to push against me, so I can just clear it at my own speed.
Yeah, something else we saw, that desperate power ultimate just for the AoE.
Yeah.
Just throw down the R, get the cooldown reduction working in your favor, and still have it available for the next team fight. So we've had a slow start to this, and this is something that we've not actually seen from Origin. They've been pedal to the metal in all 4 of their previous games.
Yeah, they know they have to be a little bit careful when it comes to how they play against Unicorns, just because how good Unicorns tend to be at turning things around. But this slow start, if the game continues this way, it is going to heavily benefit the Unicorns. With this double-tier composition, they want time to stack up. They need to get themselves later into the game, but Origin don't look like they want to let them get there. Yes, Origin are very controlled right now, but look on the map. Ooh, this time actually Soaz pushing a little too far forward.
He's been rooted in place by the Rune Prison. Kikis has decided to follow. Chum the Waters comes up, and Soaz manages to sidestep the knockup, but it's Vizicachi that flashes for first blood.
I was kind of wondering how Origin were going to pressure this top side with the tower down. They were looking for Chachi to push forward, but it was Soaz that goes aggressive and a little uncharacteristically aggressive into the enemy jungle, and good read by Unicorns. They catch him out easily.
Well, uncharacteristic for the team, because Origin, that was the first time they've given up first blood. Mithy's in trouble now as he's trading hook damage for hook damage. Hylissang and Mithy both down 50%, but here comes Amazing. Teleport from Chachi's coming in. Vardax is already down. Hylissang flays them away, but Unicorns are in retreat. The explosive cask knocks Unicorns away, and it looks like Hylissang survives by the skin of his teeth. And Origin reply in kind with a kill of their own.
Nice teleport play out from Origin, getting Soaz back onto the map as fast as possible, knowing that they had the numbers advantage bottom lane. This may actually not be over, as Origin could look to go out towards the Dragon Pit, or at least try and catch out Kikis if they're looking for it. But Soaz actually dropped very low from that. You can see just how much presence Vizicachi has on this Ryze. All he's got to do is start landing crowd control under that turret. It becomes a much more dangerous environment for Origin to actually survive in. You saw the chain combo of the Rune Prison out of Ryze and then the hook from Hylissang. If they can continue to do that, Origin are going to get slowed down in those engagements.
They certainly can. Ryze, of course, going to have a very, very quick cooldown on that Rune Prison. Hylissang definitely known for his ability to impact the game. So 11 minutes, 1-1. That tower and bottom still not falling from Origin. And of course, Unicorns of Love unable to shove it in. CS slightly in favor of Unicorns of Love. Small advantage for Chachi. Small advantage for Power of Evil. Only a small advantage for Niels in reply, but obviously that tower helping Origin keep the gold lead.
Speaking of that small advantage for Power of Evil in the middle lane, I believe this is the first time we've ever really seen Power of Evil versus Xpeke, especially here in the LCS. So he is showing he can get a small laning lead, but Xpeke is going out to the Wraiths and the Raptors at the same time. But it's bottom lane that there's a little bit more action in. Just saw Mithy kind of fly across the minimap looking for a hook, but couldn't connect with anything off it. Neither could Hylissang.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Peke versus Power of Evil. We'll need to touch on that in a second, as the junglers have found one another. Kikis has knocked up Amazing and put a lot of damage in reply. Body slam into Cask. Here comes attack and shockwave from Peke. He's chasing down Kikis. Red buff is available. Amazing has no flash. The body slam goes forward. The tunnels throw him away, and the unexpected happens as Kikis survives. Amazing is now caught out, and Power of Evil flashes for the poison power kill.
Power of Evil was second to Rome in that situation, but he still has more impact just because Kikis managed to get his tunnel network working for himself. He gets himself all of the way out of that. Now Peke might be in a little bit of trouble. No ultimate from Power, but if they get a Rune Prison before Peke gets there, which they can't quite land, so Peke is okay there. But good reaction by Origin overall. They know Unicorns desperately want that bottom tower, so they swap their duo lane out to the mid tower and keep their tower advantage up in favor of Origin. Kikis has joined the party in the top side, though. He's looking for the knockup.
Well, he finds the knockup, he gets the Furious Bite down, and Peke forced to flash. So what has this cost Origin? They managed to secure the tower in the middle lane at the cost of their tower in the bottom lane, and potentially top if another minion wave gets in. Soaz, he wants to land a Nom Nom Fishy onto Vardax. Amazing is coming from the jungle. This could work out. It's the Death Bush that Soaz made famous years ago. And here comes Amazing. No explosive cost. Soaz, he lands the Chum the Waters. Oh, hasn't even used it, rather. It was Playful Trickster. Doesn't even have Chum the Waters available. Going to carry on running Hylissang down. Flay goes away. Soaz looking for a target, but they've got a ward in the bush. The Fat Man lands the body slam, but the explosive cask pulls him backwards. Amazing with the prediction shot. 2 more kills to Origin, and they start off Dragon.
Dragon swipes its wings and says, nope, you're not using me as an escape. That was just Unicorns overstaying in the bottom lane. I don't actually know why they do that, because you lose your mid tower, you don't have wards in the jungle, and yet you stand in front of a tower and just allow Origin to get a very easy flank. They'd shoved the wave in, and now they're catching Power.
While Power's in trouble, Power is down. Dragon was secured. You can see the number of average dragons across the board. Slightly slower for Origin, but neither of teams this split have been able to secure that 5th dragon buff. So we're back to the 1,000 gold advantage in favor of the newest challenger team from the oldest players in the LCS.
I was wondering where you're going with that. Newest challenger team. We've got 3 more this week into challenger, but this game's LCS, Trevor, and I'm enjoying watching Origin because in this game, what they've done so well is everything they've given to Unicorns of Love, they've made sure they take twice as much within the next 2 or 3 minutes, because Origin forgo the bottom tower, get mid lane instead. They give up a kill or 2 in the top lane, and they know that Power of Evil's flash is down. They recapitalize on it using the Nautilus ultimate as well. And it's something they've been very good at, but this is the first time, as you said, that they were the team to give away first blood. It doesn't look like it's affected them in the slightest.
Definitely not. And Crepper was actually talking about Origin earlier today on the preview of the matches, and he highlighted how he felt Origin just had such great macro-level decision-making when looking at the bigger picture, looking at the entire map. And despite Origin giving up a flurry of kills, they're the ones in the lead. But you need to keep an eye on those CS numbers, guys. Soaz is continuing to fall behind Rise, which is a terrifying statement. But luckily for them, Niels has got a solid advantage over Vardax, and we'll see if Niels' utility can buffer Soaz's slightly weaker item build and farm values.
The question is, how does this lead translate as you go later into the game and it starts expanding into team fights? Because we know what Rise can do, we've seen what Fizz can do in other leagues, but it's all going to be about getting a teleport behind them and using his mobility to get into the backline as well. You can see that Soaz is actually down in the bottom lane because he has teleport available. Chachi does as well, but he's actually going top side. No dragon available for either team, so this is kind of this moment where it's all about wave control. You've got to set up the next couple of objectives for the team, but looks like Unicorns are looking to be the proactive team in this case.
So let's see whether or not Soaz can teleport in. He doesn't need to farm CS when he can farm champions at 3-1 and 1. 16 minutes on the clock. We see 2 Cinderhulks on the side of Origin. We'll deal slightly less damage in those team fights as it was changed a couple patches ago, but it's a lot of scaling HP on the 2 of them, and then you're going to add Nautilus into the fray. Pretty big beefy front line for Origin if they stand toe-to-toe with Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, that's very much so. And although Soaz, while he will act as a tank, he will be diving into the backline. It's one of the weird things is Fizz has very good base damages, and the damage amplification that comes from his ultimate just allows him to get all the way into the backline and start dealing a lot of damage to squishy targets. Factor in the Cinderhulk as well. It's weird to think that you can have a tank-level assassin-style champion, but certainly Fizz is fulfilling that role across some of the other regions right now.
So, Stress, the game has slowed down just a little bit as the teams continue to farm up the side lanes, farm up the mid lane. We're getting closer to 20 minutes, and Origin coming into this week had actually built themselves up an average of 4.1 thousand gold lead over their opponents. They're currently sitting just over 2,000. So we'll need to see whether or not they can accelerate that just a little more. Fans at home definitely feeling Origin have the advantage, but, you know, it's just interesting to see how Unicorns have been able to keep them back just a little less than before the teams they've faced.
Yeah, I mean, there's still about a minute and a half to go, so that anything can happen. But honestly, a lot of this gold lead is stemming, as you said, from Niels, just constantly farming, constantly, all the time. And Vardax isn't doing that either. They're donating for giving a lot of the farm over to Power of Evil and Vizicachi right now as they move lane to lane. So Vardags is the player right now. They actually need to be stronger at this point in the game. Yes, if Power of Evil is very strong or Ryze is very strong at this point, they can still deal a lot of damage, but Kalista is going to be fairly necessary part of these team fights when it comes to dealing out damage to Origin this early.
So let's see whether or not Peke can find himself a good command shockwave. 1 minute until the next dragon. Origin able to secure it after punishing Vardags and Hylissang for some poor positional decision making, and now they're getting some vision control.
And there's another one. The reason they can get all of this vision control is because Kalista was spotted in the top lane, and that allows Origin to know they have the numbers advantage. Fizz, again, with the teleport down in the bottom lane, he can join the fight. Origin know they have full security in this time to de-ward this area. They've left a 1 ward up in this bush, and they're trying to encircle the Unicorns, but I think it might be a bit of a trap from the Unicorns.
Well, we'll see. You see Amazing, he's body slammed over the wall. The dredge line connects onto Hylissang. He's gonna flay him in. The barrel knocks everybody into the box, and the shockwave catches too. Peke manages to sidestep the Fate's Call, but he does not sidestep the death sentence. Amazing comes with a fat belly back in, and Peke survives a few seconds longer. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Origin, and Niels is landing those ricochets over and over. We do see Amazing going low, and Soaz is looking for some snake. The eel is eaten, and Hylissang, the man that started it all, will be the man that ends it all. 2 for 5, and Origin with the team fight win.
A great, well-balanced team fight from Origin. They get it a little engaged upon by the Unicorns, even hold Soaz teleport until very late in that fight, but they knew the shockwave was coming from XPeke. Amazing with the follow-up on the engage again. Origin really just well-balanced team fight from them.
Definitely. 20 minutes has just ticked by, and Origin say we will stick to our averages. They've got over 4,000 gold in the lead. Put themselves very, very solidly into this mid-game. We do see the dragon has spawned. All of Origin have backed, but it doesn't look like Unicorns are rushing there just yet, although I do take that back.
Yeah.
They seem to be moving.
Kikis used his ultimate to stop Amazing from recalling, but this is the fight. And keep your eyes on Soaz in the bottom lane of how late his teleport was, because Origin just a really nice counter engage. That ultimate from Amazing completely disrupted Unicorn's flow as they came into this, and look how fragmented this team fight is. Power of Evil's going backwards, Hylissang's landing a hook, and yes, they're getting a couple of kills, or a kill here and there, but from this, Origin just have so much health because there are a good few members of the Unicorns that are just not outputting damage. For all of the last 2 or 3 seconds, Power of Evil was outputting almost 0 damage. And Origin will clean up that team fight every single time if it's given to them.
Well, Power of Evil just slithering around, not having the impact he was hoping for. While the replay was on, Dragon was secured by Unicorns of Love. Niels, Mythy, Amazing, they're looking for more, and they catch Vardags, knocking him out of range of that lantern. So just to quickly reiterate, 4 towers to 2, 10 kills to 4, 5,000 gold in the lead for Origin. But Unicorns did get that first dragon, which will help them if this game goes later. Give them that 6%.
Well, you said a 4,000 gold lead at 20 minutes.
Yep.
A little bit more than that just after 20 minutes. So Soaz wants himself a fight, but Vizicachi is here as well. Actually, all of Unicorns are here.
Well, that's a 3-man knockup from that dredge line mine. Kikis comes back in, the barrel blows Power of Evil up. And Peke and the rest of Origin find another kill on Kikis. This means Baron.
And this is a massive, massive problem for the Unicorns right now, because they're playing a composition that wants to scale, but now they're just giving gold constantly over to Origin. Every single time a fight like this happens, it's getting cleaner and cleaner for the Origin lineup. Now Hylissang wants him, and he's going to die as well. That's Baron plus another kill. Now Origin can look for more towers, because I don't even think Unicorns really want this re-engage.
Well, they certainly don't. Chachi's in trouble. Niels is running him down. The dredge line connects, and Niels gets a killing spree. 5 Barons leading up to today. That should be number 6 if my math is correct. Origin, they really know how to press an advantage, and in 4 minutes, they went from 2,000 gold lead to 9,000 gold lead and Baron buff.
Well, it all stems from Origin basically saying to the Unicorns, you guys like chaos? How about we give you some ordered chaos? Because we're just going to have these team fights exactly how we want them, which is clean and calculated from Origin. every time Unicorns of Love step forward, they're blasted into the Origin team and just completely taken from the map straight away. And it's something that's happening because of the vision control that Origin has. Look at the amount of wards just on your screen and then around the jungle in general from Origin. Yes, Unicorns have a couple here and there, but it's very, very difficult for the Unicorns to put themselves into advantageous situations. And they're just going to be hemorrhaging wards again and again, although this time they managed to get themselves a pink.
Oh, very well played from Origin. It's actually just incredible to behold the level of play.
They want to go again.
Well, they find them, and look at the shockwave barrel combo. Peke, Niels, Soaz. It's a trio of kills, a tower to boot, and they want an inhibitor turret to follow.
This game has just gone from being somewhat close to absolutely in Origin's control right now. Look at how fast they're just shredding through this, and it's all been involved with the macro level decision making that Origin have showed. This isn't a game where you look at Unicorns and wonder what went wrong, because Origin have been what has gone so right in this game. Unicorns picked a scaling composition and they've just lost a Nexus turret at 24.5 minutes. That is not something that can happen with this kind of composition where you end up winning.
What an exceptional performance from Origin. Hylissang's in trouble, doesn't manage to connect with the death sentence, forced to have the Fate's Call as a safety. Hylissang is out. Inhibitor down, Nexus turret down, 25 minutes. Origin, they're not stopping. 20% of Baron buff is left, and they are setting their sights on the mid lane turret. There's even minions on the bottom inner turret if they want it. Amazing, almost getting close to that explosive cast. We do see Peke, he's stunned up by the petrifying gaze. Chachi has eaten some Chum the Waters, and Vardax forced to flash to safety. Chachi is down, Kikis will be next, and the kill credit goes to Niels. Soaz is keeping the attention of the Unicorns, 3 of them in bay. And Origin get another inhibitor, and whoopa! Peke misses the shockwave, eats a death sentence for Flare, and says, I don't care, as he leaves the base. Origin, it's all but done in this game.
This is beyond convincing from Origin, and it can take it all the way back to picks and bans. Origin said, we will give Unicorns their comfort champions in every single role, all the way down the line. Chachi's played Ryze. Haravival, one of his absolute top performing champions, is Cassiopeia. Vardax is comfortable on the Kalista as well. And Origin just said, okay, well, we know exactly how to beat that style. We know you'll go double scaling. We know you'll try and play for the late game. We've got a game plan for it. We'll execute it pretty perfectly.
Go a step further, perfectly.
Well, they gave away first blood. It's the first time in the league.
It was to bait the aggressive play.
It was
conscientious, but just such a great performance. And you know, for Origin, if you actually step back, they've got a few minutes before they close this one out. They started weeks 1 and 2 by taking down taking down Giants, taking down Copenhagen Wolves. Then they took down the number 4 team from Spring SK. Then they took down the number 3 team from Spring, H2K. They're about to take down the number 2 team. And next week, they play the number 1 team. I don't even know if Fnatic can stop this.
Origin basically say, who's next? And if it happens that Fnatic can't quite stop it, then that becomes a very interesting question of who's next. Because Origin are looking so good.
Yes, they are. 27 minutes, they get their second dragon. Let's also remind everybody that Origin do have to play Roccat tomorrow, so one more game before they face Fnatic. And we'll see if both of those teams can make it into the matchup undefeated. Still a lot of game to be played. This one though, 14,000 gold. The Righteous Glories pop on the hunt pop. We see the depth charge going out, the barrel going wide. Chachi's the first one to be focused, but it's Power that gives up his life. The depth charge and the dredge line rather, connecting. 3 more kills for 3 more carries. Soaz, Peke, and Niels ring up just a couple more. They close the game at 28 minutes. Origin 5-0.
There's not a whole lot to say after a victory like that, if I'm being honest, when it comes to, you know, what could have gone differently. Origin just macro level. They're almost on another tier right now. When you look at how they're playing this game out and what they're giving away and what they're taking in return from it, I'm incredibly impressed, because it's something I didn't see casting them all the way through Spring in Challenger. It was the big question. Can they transfer that to beating top LCS teams? And as you said, 4th are down, 3rd are down, now 2nd are down from Spring Split. Origin, they are making a big, big case for themselves for Summer Split.
Origin seemed to be the super team everybody was expecting out of other teams. I mean, hard looks on the faces of the Unicorns of Love because it's been a long time since they've been handed a defeat this heavy.
Yeah.
Unicorns of Love seldom look this out of sorts, but for Origin, for Leduc, we heard the pregame. Unicorns are difficult to prepare for. I think you're lying because that was phenomenal. The top lane fizz, the playstyle, the unrelenting pressure just completely worked in favor of Origin.
I'm starting to wonder because we talked about how Unicorns of Love, when it comes to their pick and ban phase, there are certain things that you can't predict, but it feels like Origin predicted every single pick here from the Unicorns because maybe the Unicorns have gone a little too predictable when it comes to what they're going to play out of their solo laners. That's something that, you know, you could have put money on Vizicachi picking Rise and the Cassiopeia being picked up for Power of Evil. Maybe they need to start shifting things up. I don't think it's what lost them the game as such because Origin just played so much better.
I agree with you entirely. I actually agree. I think, you know, if you look at the pick priority, the Gragas was the first pick. Yeah. Still remains 100%. We knew Kalista was super high up there. There's only been one game out of 21 where the Kalista's not featured. We knew these picks were going to be a priority, and then, again, the in-game decision-making is completely separate to picks and bans, because I feel whatever comp Origin ran, the way they played today, I don't think there would have been anything that Unicorns of Love could have done. But that risky lack of wave clear. You can't get to mid to late game if you have no wave clear to stall with. And yes, Cassio can set up a lane. Yes, Rise can push a lane. But when it's 4v1, 4v3, you can't defend effectively enough.
Yeah, very difficult to defend. And honestly, it's kind of Unicorns going a little bit back towards their older playstyle, but we've seen that when they're on the sieging composition with the Cogmore, they work very well around their power spikes, around when they can fight. This game, they kind of went back to just fighting all of the time. And again, you can only have so many fights go against you before the other teams start absolutely dominating you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if we step back, we go back to the top of the show where we were looking at the standings and how you had 2 teams undefeated and 3 teams at 3-1, 3 teams 1-3, etc. The only teams that have been able to beat Rise top in his 100% pick ban since 510 was Fnatic and now Origin.
Yeah.
Again, clearly delineating the difference between the top tier teams, the middle tier, and then the low tier. So it's really, really interesting, and just what a match to go back to the drawing board. It's very rare at this level of play you see that amount of domination. 25 minutes, Origin were knocking on the Nexus turrets.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you just look at the performance. Amazing. Again, another strong performance. We were looking at that for our featured matchup. 5-1 and 15 overall. So amazing. He's back in Europe and he's back on form.
All right, we'll find out if anybody has Origin in their fantasy because you guys are winning another week. We're going to throw it over to the analyst desk where the analysts are joined by some of the winners from Origin.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, amazing. Back in Europe, back in form, back on our desk as well, and joined by Soaz after, well, Origin's gone 5-0 now, racking up to be really impressive so far. But in this game versus Unicorns of Love, who we know tend to throw some curveballs rather at times. Amazing. I'd love to have your take on picks and bans and how it ended up.
So our main objective when we play versus Unicorns, a team that really plays well around the mid lane, is just to take him out to a certain extent. I feel like Power of Evil is basically like the cornerstone of the team, and if he's unable to basically like poke out enemies with his like famous Varus, famous Cogmore, whatever it is, they just seem to fall apart because they just don't have the insane scaling come in the mid lane. They get outscaled in mid lane or maybe equally scaled, and hence they can't play on power spikes as well as they want to. And that was basically our main concern, and we managed to execute properly.
I feel like Expected did a phenomenal job just neutralizing that lane. Because in my head, the Cassiopeia-Orianna matchup feels slightly favored to a Cassiopeia, but he kept even in CS, even slightly ahead. Is that something Expected is just really good at in recent games for you guys? Just like neutralizing mid lane, and then the rest seems to fight 4v4 until he eventually joins the fight?
I think Pekka is really good at doing this kind of job when there's like a farming lane or not so edgy matchup, like when he don't play into Fizz or this kind of assassin champion.
Yeah.
He tend to do a lot better, like farming. Yeah, he always have so much CS and deny the other mid laner from roaming and things like this.
So in the early game, right, if you go past picks and bans, you guys tried to focus the top side of the map a bit because you swapped away, I guess, I imagine, to keep that Ryze a little in a weaker state, but then went back up there and it didn't really go all right. Were you guys afraid at any point that the Ryze would start snowballing?
I played one time the matchup, Fizz into Ryze, and I thought it was fine as long as I have the long lane, because Ryze can get gank, he don't have so much mobility compared to Fizz that it's really hard to gank him, even though I have smite. So the only problem is that we made a play on top when the Rek'Sai was there, and we didn't really expect it, and Cassio moved a bit before than Peke as well. So he didn't being bad, and Maurice died. But,
Peter? All right, so the biggest question is, so we can get the first replay on your screen right now, and this is where Soaz goes to the bot lane, and I was just wondering, is this part of the Fizz game plan, or was this a reaction to the Ryze starting to snowball? Why were you ending up the bot lane? And we can roll the clip in the meanwhile.
I went into the bush first because I wanted to farm the wave, but they ended up pushing the turret for some reason. So since we saw them and I was hiding in the bush, Amazing said that he was coming. Mithi recalled in the same time as well and came bottom because they were pushing. And we ended up having 2 kills and Drake, I believe, at this point.
Yeah, almost gets away, but you guys managed to kill him. It took a while before the actual team fights started happening, which would tell a lot about the game. We're going to get the second replay up on the screen because it is a team fight in the mid lane that you guys ended up winning, but it seemed pretty close from our perspective. So Amazing, I'd love to know from your side, kind of, like, did you know the teleport was coming in? Did it come in too late for you? And when did you know that you had this fight? We can roll the clip.
Okay, so basically our thought process is that we have TP up and we communicate that we want to have the TP coming in. So we were prepared for this fight. We chunked out like Hylissang, we chunked out Kickers a bit, and we forced him into a choke where like Hylissang is basically like caught out, gets a bit of chunk, and our main concern is basically like to have like our wombo combo come in properly and hit as many players as possible. And therefore like I tried to zone him with my ultimate into the wombo combo and overall just like force them into little areas where they can't really like evade the Orianna QW combo or even QWR, and the Fizz afterwards coming in with a TP is basically just like underlining that we just really were stronger at this point than they were, and we're in a better position on that team fight.
Did you at any point think you were going to lose that fight?
No, never. Never? As soon as you go in, it's either win or lose, but if you're confident in your team, you always win.
All right, you always win.
Well, that seems something that has been, if we've been watching you guys' replays, you guys get so aggressive sometimes in the early game. And we had a tweet up from you saying, well, the NA scene just seems a little stale. People don't take those individual risks. But I do feel when we watch your guys' replays at times, the dives early, sometimes you get away with a sliver of health. You can't keep saying it's all calculated.
What?
Is it?
Dude, nah, it's obviously like a bit of luck is always like playing into it, but overall, like I just feel like being as aggressive as possible is maximizing opportunities, and that's something I want to play for, and that's something I've been working for, and our team has been working for.
So we've seen Origin come in with tempered expectations. You guys like, yeah, we're gonna do all right, you know, Worlds maybe, but you know, 5-0, and every week you guys look dominant. Where is the ceiling for Origin?
I don't know. I didn't expect to be that big in the early of the season. Our main goal, as we said before, was not to be like top 1, top 2. Is to have a good season and try to improve as much as we can during the season. But I think that we have a lot of potential.
Yeah, you can say that word.
We have a lot of potential, and I think we can do really well.
Yep, you guys are looking scary so far. I think we can all agree on that. 5-0 so far. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Another team that is doing very well so far is Giants. They are 3-1, and they are going up against the 1-3 Roccat after the break, so stay with us.
Audio check, can you guys hear me? Hands up!
Mayday.
Put your hands up in the air!
Put your hands up!
It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Origin, and Niels is landing those ricochets over and over. We do see Amazing going low, and Soaz is looking for some snake.
They have flash. No flash Kalista. No flash Kalista. No flash Kalista. Nice! Good job.
We do see Peke, he's stunned up by the petrifying gaze. Chachi has eaten some Chumba Waters, and Vardak forced a flash to safety on the hunt. Pop, we see the depth charge going out, the barrel going wide. Chachi's the first one to be focused, but it's Power that gives up his life. Origin, 5-0.